Hello, beautiful humans, and thank you once again for joining Teach Jenn Tech. Today we have Travis with us, and Travis, please introduce yourself and what you're going to teach us.
Yep, I'm Travis WaithMair, and I'm famous for having, or infamous, whichever you would like to think of, for having a layout library called Bedrock Layout Primitives. And I also am a software engineer at Plex. And yeah, today we're going to be going over just web layout patterns and different ways to lay out the web.
And I get the words you're saying. I do. I like the words you're saying do make sense, but when we're saying the way you lay out the web, is that like the way a website just shows up, like the front
Yeah,
end of or style of a website?
exactly. And it's not wrong to group everything as just one big style because we use CSS for it. But I really think it's like web layout as like a separate concern than like the prettiness of it. So like
Okay.
the colors and all that all uses CSS and that's great. But also the layout is a totally kind of like sub concern in my mind. And that's how I like to think of it. So I
Mm.
think I like to separate that kind of both in the code as well as like how I approach the web page and how I structure it. Because the way you lay out the web page is um it creates like a hierarchy and different things like that. So as you read, like you're like it points your eyes in different places. So knowing how to do that layout is really important. And it gets really easy to like kind of associate like everything is just style. But like I really like to just pull it as like separate things, in my mind at least.
I'm digging it. I'm digging it. And that is making sense by I like the way you said making it pretty because that
Yeah,
is when I think of, web layout in my mind. I'm like, how you make something look pretty, not necessarily functional.
yeah.
But is there like a certain like go to web layouts? Like, or I'm not sure how to say that one correctly.
So there are some like, and that's where I want to get to. Like that, this is where a lot and most of I shouldn't say most of my career, a lot of my career, I associate that everything is the same, and I do like a lot of people do when they write CSS, is you just throw mud on the wall and then it works, and then it's like don't touch it. Like it works now, so don't change
Fair
my
enough.
code. It works. But like there's some actual like if you just like anything, there's like patterns that we follow. Like if you go to web pages, they're not like 90% of the time they're doing the same things. They're just doing them, they're just combining these patterns in different ways to achieve these things. But if you break it down, they're following like probably like a handful of like layout patterns. And so if you just like create those patterns and learn how to do those, you can
Hmm.
get like most of the layouts on the web. It's kind of like when learning a language, there's like 1,000 words and most somewhere around 1,000 words in most languages gets you like 80% of the way there. It's just kind of the same concept. Like just a handful of like web layout patterns when
Hmm.
composed together will actually get you most of the things you need done. And so hence that's what I do with my library. But even if you don't use my library, that's if you think about it that way, think about like what pattern we're doing, you can
Hmm.
do you can get really far in web layout world.
Okay. Okay. Like it's starting to sink in, and I'm totally going to sidetrack myself to go because I believe it's on linked on your Twitter, right? With
Yes.
Bedrock, because I
So
feel
yeah,
like I
my
should definitely show people that too.
so there's a library, yeah, Bedrock Dash Layout .dev, and there's a React component library as well as a CSS library version of it. In fact, yeah, let me pull.
There we go. Let me make this a lot bigger because this is the part about streaming that I always forget is to make things bigger.
I do the same thing all the time. Anthony, who's been on your stream before, is always like, Travis, bump up your
I know, right?
resolution.
He's going to be on later this week, and because he's tired of me not looking at the README or like creating good documentation, he's like, Jen, you need to start doing. Okay. He always reminds me of like the big brother that is always mad at you because you're not doing it and like just cares because he just really wants you to do a good job. That's what Anthony reminds me of. But
Exactly that. He's a great guy at that.
Okay, so we have the layout here, and I love how you just have this as a resource that people can use, and I'll definitely have this linked afterwards. And I will link it in the chat really quick so that way everyone can take a look too. And then, all right, so just to show them this resource, we got that done. Now, what are we doing today?
So I thought we would do the fun thing that probably everybody has to do in a web page is create a landing page. And I've already got a starter for you, and we're going to actually just focus on doing layout.
Okay, I'm going to see if I can make this a bit bigger. So there we go. All right. So we got your database starter. I like it. Like,
yes.
Yay. I'm following you now.
Sweet. I'm more popular already.
Yes.
So yeah, so if you go down below, you'll see we have a database, and we've got the kind of to show like what's actually there.
Yeah, I was like, how do I scroll with the normal scroll and not in these?
You might want to do the if you change the layout, instead of having everything on top, maybe put it on the side. So if you click that, there's that button up at the very top next to settings. It's got like the 3 squares in the big one, and you
there
can
we
change
go.
it.
Oh, yes. I like that. Thank you.
Go.
So we got our, now I can make it bigger again. Our database. I like this. I just like the name.
Awesome. Now you can see like everything's like looks pretty, but it's not laid out pretty. And so that's what we're going to be doing today, is just focus on getting this laid out in a nice way.
All right.
So the first pattern, the first like thing that I thought we'd do is what I like to call the cover pattern. The idea is that it's going to cover an area and then center some children inside of it. So vertically center it. So I like to call that a cover pattern. And that's one of the nice ways of also thinking about these as patterns is you can quickly just identify, hey, this is a cover pattern, or it's this pattern with this pattern. And it makes it a lot easier to think about what you're doing and how to approach it. So yeah, let's go ahead and start this. And we're going to do this on the CSS.
Okay. Can I close the HTML then, or are we?
We're going to go back to the HTML. We don't need the JavaScript, but like, yeah, let's just do CSS for now, and then we'll go back and forth.
Okay.
But if we scroll down all the way to the bottom of CSS, we're going to start here. And we're going to use a different method of selecting than probably most people typically do. Usually you'll do like a dot, class name of some sort, right? But we're going to use data attributes instead for selecting.
Okay.
And just because we're going to be creating these utility components kind of thing, and I think it's helpful to kind of separate them out from like your regular classes pretty, so it's easier to think of them as a separate concern. And this is a great way to do it, so that you can also like not have to worry about these things like conflicting with your CSS later on down the road. So to select for data attributes, instead of using a name, you're actually going to put it in square brackets. So you do square bracket, and then do data dash, and we're going to do cover. So this is a cover pattern. And then next to it, go out of the square bracket, and we'll do the curlies, and then we can write our CSS in here.
Can the curlies be next to it, or does it need to have
a
space?
Yeah, that's exactly.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I think that it might, yeah, we'll just do that. So inside the curlies, let me bring up my notes so I don't forget things. Okay, so first thing we're going to do with this cover is we want everything inside of here to be in a column. So we're going to do display flex.
Is it one word?
And actually, let's put this on a new line here. So inside the curlies. Yeah, there we go. And we'll go display : flex. And so we're purposely we're telling whatever we're going to use the flex layout pattern display. And then we're going to go flex direction column. So do a semicolon after flex. And then below that, we'll do flex dash direction column.
Now I have to remember how to spell column.
Yeah, I always do too. So this will say, hey, everything's going to be like try to be in a row by default, but by changing the direction to column, now it's going to put everything stacked on top of each other.
I'm trying to go away. Okay, you're not going to go away. Fine, I tried.
So we're going to do that, and then the next thing, and then the next thing we're going to do is let's just do a gap. So that new line, and we'll go gap colon, and we'll for now just do one rem. We're gonna come back to this in a moment.
You said one rem?
Yeah, one rem semicolon.
I'm learning all the things today.
And then let's do a minimum block size. So min block size. Min dash block dash size. And we're going to do 100 VH. That stands for view heights.
Okay.
Semicolon. There we go. So we're going to start with just this, and this will be good. So now let's go back in the HTML.
Does this one autosave?
It should autosave by default.
Cool.
So let's go to the very top. And we're going to go on that header, right next to the header. So we have header class header, mm-hmm. But right inside the header HTML itself. So yeah, before the class, we're going to just put data dash cover and then space. And you can see automatically that header section now is taking up 100 view heights. And there's at least
I undid it so I can see it again.
Yeah. There we go. So that's cool. We're only part of the way there to making this like really customizable, but like you can see already, like we're covering a section.
Mm-hmm.
And so next thing we're going to do here is we want to make it so that sometimes we don't always want to cover 100% view heights. That's a good default, because like say this is a hero that we're building up here with this header. Oftentimes we want to have it to be 100% view heights like this.
I'm having fun with the 100% view height, so that way, because it shows, like this is the view height, so it goes to it. This is really cool. But, I can see what you mean by we may not want that.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, depending on what kind of thing you're doing. So let's go and let's make this a little bit more customizable. And so what we're going to do is we're going to, instead of using 100% view height, let's go back down to the CSS, and let's have this take a custom property. So let's get rid of the 100% view height there. And let's do var. And then the parentheses. And do dash dash max and then with a capital W height. So max height.
Right.
And then let's do a comma after that.
In the same bracket or a different bracket?
Yeah, right after the max height. So yeah,
Okay.
and then let's do 100 VH. So what this says is we're going to take the value of a custom property called max height. But if max height isn't been defined, we're going to fall back to 100% VH. So we have a default value that we're always going to use, but we're going to have a way for you to customize and change that.
As a heads up, our number one fan, who we were talking about earlier, is here. Hello,
Sweet.
Anthony.
Anthony, welcome. We're rebuilding Bedrock Layout from scratch. So we're going to rebuild exactly what the library is already built.
Yay, so much learning.
So this is, I don't think I've ever really gotten into this level of detail with anybody on any other stream. So you're special, Jen.
Thank you. You both said so. I think it's definitely something. It's a challenge to break stuff down this far, because when we learn something, a lot of times we're like, oh, everybody knows that. But because we forget that we started there a long, long time ago. So I do appreciate it. And I haven't done much in CSS. So this is pretty exciting.
The dad joke came in.
What up, Bakari? I hope you made it home safe. He had a layover in Denver yesterday, and I was like,
oh wow,
dang it, I wish I knew, because I live in Denver. So, but you know,
I've been to Denver twice, and one of them was not a great experience, because it was we picked up from I was flying out of Salt Lake City, and as soon as we got in the air, they said our AC's broken or our heater's broken.
Oh no!
So we need to land in Denver and fix the heater so we can fly. Because I was flying to New York, because they're like, we can't wait this out. You guys will be freezing. But then they're like, we can't land in Denver. We have too much fuel. So we flew above Denver for an hour, just circled, and then landed. So
that happens. I've done that in Denver too, where they just circle it because, but it was normally that happens. It's happened a few times because of the storms. I need to tell my dog that she is not part of the live stream today.
Are you sure? She is now.
Everybody might hear her whining in the background, but it's not me. It's the dog making very random noises. Okay, so we changed it to max height and then 100 VH. And
so now we can customize this. So if we go back up to the HTML, and right there, we're going to do an inline style. So if we go style,
where should I do it?
Sorry, right after the word cover, do a space. And let's write style equals, and then do a string. So sorry, do a quotation.
Is that right?
Yeah. And then we're going to define this property here. So we can go dash max width with a, exactly. And we'll go colon, and let's do 50 VH. Yeah. Lowercase VH. Yeah.
I was like, I typed that one wrong. And so we did width, or we did height in CSS, and we do width here.
It should be VH for both. So we max width. Oh, did I say max width? I meant max height. Sorry, my brain is just like.
I already told you that, with my cat bite yesterday, like I'm off in like la la land half the time. At least the talking to you beforehand, I caught that I don't have the rings of swelling on there now. All right, so we got max height, and I like how that changed it where it's not crazy and all over the place.
Let's see. So now this will allow us to use that same like cover component anywhere else if we need to. We want to follow this pattern, and we can customize that max height. Now,
That's fun.
one might ask, like, why max height? And in fact, we're using the wrong thing. I really should have said min height. Let's go back and fix that. See,
In
I had
both?
this like in both of these.
Okay.
Because,
Min.
yeah, min.
And then go back here. And do min.
Because that's really what we're doing. We're saying the minimum height is 50 view heights. But the reason why we want to say minimum is if we actually had content in there that was higher than 50 VH, we want it to be at least the content height. We only want it to be a minimum 50 VH if we have less than 50 VH worth of content. So that's why we do minimum height. So we can say cover at least this amount. But if you have more content, definitely keep pushing, keep going. So
I dig it.
So most of the time, if you with the web, you hardly ever want to set a fixed height. You don't want to just say, hey, the height is this, even though practically it may only never be that. You want to do minimum height because it allows it to be resilient in case the content pushes it out. Some of the memes around CSS where things like overflow out of bounds or different things like that come from when we try to control the content and try to say, this is like, try to control the web like we do like a magazine or something like that, where we know exactly what the content is going to be like in advance. But the thing is, on the web, we don't know what it is. It could be like only a couple paragraphs, or it could be like 100 paragraphs. So we need to be resilient. And that's why using minimum height makes it resilient.
You're piecing so many things together for me because I do use Squarespace for both the podcast and this live stream. And in Squarespace, it allows you to edit the header. And now that I'm like, oh, so is this how you can make all these changes? This is cool. Okay. Please continue.
Yeah, no problem. So I talked about it already, that like the other part of the web layout, the cover pattern is not just that it like covers a section, but it also vertically centers some children if you want it. So we're going to implement that part now as well. So let's go underneath, inside actually, we're going to do this on a separate line. We're going to create, so go to a new line, and we're going to do, once again, data dash cover. So we're saying, hey, anything that has a cover, and then next to it, we're not going to do that yet. So we're going to do less than. It's the arrow that points to your right. Yeah, that one. Sorry.
Okay.
Is greater than. Yes, the greater than symbol. And then we're going to do square brackets again, and we're going to do data dash cover dash children. Yeah, do we want to do that? Yeah. Or no, let's don't do children. Let's do centered. The word centered. There we go. And then after that, we'll do the curly brackets. So first of all, what is this selector we're doing? We're saying anything with a data cover that has a direct child that says data cover centered, we're going to add these styles. So we could add data cover centered on anything out there, and these styles won't apply. It's only going to apply if we use the data cover centered attribute on a direct child of the data covered element.
Okay.
So that, just so we're clear, and we'll see that in practice. It'll make more sense as we use it. But that's what that arrow bracket is saying. We're saying,
okay,
we're looking for the direct child that meets this qualification.
Okay.
And in here, we're going to do margin dash block, and we're going to do auto. Now,
is that how you spell margin?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. Cool. I was like, I don't think I actually know how to spell margin, but that's okay.
So what margin block means most people probably have learned like margin top, margin bottom, margin left, margin right, or margin, yeah. And those were great, okay, the web, but like as the web has developed, we found and really have acknowledged that there's more writing styles than just English left to right. They've gone back and they've revamped and they've created some more logical properties around that. So they've now added things like margin block, which means things in the block direction. And block direction, in the case of English, left to right, is from top to bottom. But block direction, if you're in a vertical language, is actually left to right. Unless you're vertical right to left, then it's right to left. So
Got it.
We do this because once again, it makes our web page more resilient, makes our elements more resilient to any language that we may adopt. Or if we're just playing around and goofing around and we want to do something cool and change the writing style just to make it look pretty, we're still resilient in that case. So anyway, yeah. So margin block basically means the margin in the two block directions, so the top and the bottom. Since we're in an English left to right here, that's the top to bottom and bottom. We're getting basically two properties as being assigned for one. So it's really nice and easy. That's the other advantage with these new additions to the CSS. These are CSS logical properties.
Got it.
So what we're going to do, we're going to go back in the HTML. And in there right now, we have this below the figure, we have this H1 that says like database and the paragraph. So we're going to let's wrap both of those in a div.
Right?
Yep. And then we'll put the ending tag after the paragraph. Perfect. And then
it's like changing things. This is fun.
It's interesting that it's formatted that way. But anyway, yeah. So inside the div, that the opening tag of that div, let's do that data covered. Oh, you're doing that inside the HTML itself.
Oh.
So go all the way to the div, and we're going to add this there. Yeah.
Here?
Perfect.
Okay.
Go data, cover, and what do we call that? Centered?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think center. I'm going to look.
Was it center or centered? Yeah.
Centered.
Okay. And then you probably can't see it on here because we're probably taking up the entire content. But if you were like to change the size for the main page there, like maybe scroll up and see. Let's maybe. Yeah, you can see a slight change. Let's like maybe bump it, like really exaggerate it, like really bump up the size, make it really small, just to really show. So yeah, you see like that database is like vertically centered right there inside this section. So that way, yeah, now we can do that thing where like you have that hero and then you like have that vertically centered like content right there in the middle. Sometimes you though. Oh, anyway, so yeah, this is. Yeah, that's all I want talking about that. So this is a cover pattern. So if you're ever like, hey, look, I need something to take up some content and vertically centered, this is the pattern you would want to use. This is covered. Now, the other thing we want, another good pattern that we use on the web all the time is horizontally centering things. So we're going to do that one now. So below the data cover, so yeah, below all this, let's create a new line. And in brackets, let's do data center.
Would I do data cover again or just data?
No. So this new one is not related to cover at all. So it's a new pattern all on its own that we're going to be, and let's just call it center itself. Perfect. And then let's do the curly brackets. Now, the center, the idea is we want whatever we have in there to be to center itself inside of its content, but also to based off its content. But we also want to maybe have a fixed width, like a max width that it will grow, so that way, like, it will be centered within. It will be like only a certain size, and then center itself within that. And it'll be more obvious once we do it, but
I'm
that's
just
the
thinking,
pattern
I'm
that we're
like,
trying to do.
would it, and this is me not knowing CSS as well, but would it be like display center and then like something along the min block size would do like a min or max width or something?
Yeah, you're like on the right like idea here. So
Okay.
exactly. So interesting. Like, there's so many ways to horizontally center things on the web, but one of the most like tried and true and still works like pretty much in every situation, every context, is to use the margin auto not in the block size, but in the inline. So we're going to do margin inline. Auto. Perfect. Now, the other thing about the center, though, is that it's also content. It's really based on the content. And so I kind of like waved my hand on this. I brought it a reset, like a CSS reset in here already that makes everything box sizing border box, because that's more intuitive most of the time. But in this case, we're going to put it back to the default. So we're going to do box sizing. Sorry, let me make my notes here. Box sizing. And let's do content box.
Is that right?
Yes. Let's do a semicolon there, obviously.
Okay, cool.
And then just for now, let's do like, just to give it a value for now, let's do max inline size. So max dash inline.
Dash size or just max in? Okay.
Max inline dash size. Perfect. And let's give it like 500 pixels just for the fun of it, just for now. So now, well, let's go back up to that hero that where we put that data covered centered, and let's add another attribute right next to it. So let's do a space there and do data center. There you go. And you can see, like, because we put that max width there, that it's automatically, it's only going to cover that 500 pixels, and it's going to automatically, whatever margin is available, it's going to put those in the inline direction on both sides.
Okay, and that's because in the HTML, we did it as the div on the H1, but would these still work if we added it to like a div down here?
We could put it on anything in here. So if we're like, hey, that article, or anything on here, we could just put it on anything that we want to have to be like horizontally centered. And you don't necessarily need to wrap it. You just, if you have multiple things that you need to like have centered like that, you could wrap it. But if you're like, hey, this article and just this article I want to be centered, you can go add that data attribute on that article.
So I would just leave the article and then put it between article and class?
Correct.
Wow.
Okay. Mind-blowing, right?
It is mind-blowing. It's fun seeing it like instantly too.
Yeah,
It's so
this is
fun.
what
Okay.
this is what I love about the front end. There's just you get such instant feedback for the
Yes.
things. So
Instant gratification. Yay.
yeah, exactly. Now, obviously, 500 pixels. That's not something that like is going to translate. We want to maybe follow. Like we need something to be more customizable. And so let's do similar to what we did with the max height. We're going to do with max width. See, this is what the problem was. I had max width on my brain because I was already looking ahead, so I screwed up what I was telling you to do. But yeah, let's go.
Max width.
Yeah, max width, and then let's do a comma. Let's do 100% just as a default, because by default we don't necessarily want it to like squish. Let's have it like just take up the entire um, width by default.
And that should automatically update because we already have that in
Yeah.
the HTML.
So in this case, we don't need to like do anything for this. It's already like kind of covering that. So now we've achieved one of the most desired, coveted things, which is a vertically centered content and a horizontally centered content. So now we've achieved nirvana on the web here. I'm just kidding.
We made it. Done. Easy
It's done.
peasy. We learned
Check.
it all.
We're done. We're experts. No.
Just kidding. Just kidding. I know it is. There's so much more there.
But let's see. I want to make sure. Oh yeah. So the really cool thing is we can take this even one step further. We can actually like look for specific values because these data attributes, we can give them values and we can do selections based off that. So right below data center there. So no, actually, sorry, we're going to do a whole new like, so on a new set of selections. So yeah, so let's do the brackets and we'll go data center again. Now, this time though, we're going to do after the word center, we're going to do a tilde. So it's the button right next to the one, but you have to hit the shift key.
Okay.
So, yeah,
I never knew
the
that's
tilde.
what the name was.
Now you know.
We'll see if I remember that part though.
No, okay.
Okay,
Tilde, and we're going to do equals. And then we're going to, in quotes, write center text, center dash text. And so what this says is, hey, if somewhere the value that is given to data center, if you can find that word center text in there, then let's do some extra styles. So this way we can anyway, you'll see the value of this in just a moment. So let's do the curly braces after the square bracket.
All right. And Bakari said that not far from the truth, I think about, we found the holy grail of,
Yeah.
The centering for height and width. So, all right, back to this. Okay.
I appreciate it. So in center text, let's do text dash align colon, and then give that a property of center. So now we can go up to that data center there on line 5, I think, in HTML.
Okay.
And let's give that data center and let's make that equal center text. Oh, you got to put in quotes.
Okay, hold on. It's not like I can type either.
There we go. So now we're just by adding that value, we can conditionally decide we want to also center the text. So we can use that data center, maybe go add it back to that dad bod or whatever, one of those like jokes.
And then we want to do this, and then we do data dash center equals quote.
Oh no, let's not do let's do space. And this one, because, and you can't, it's taking up the 100 width, so we can't actually see that as center just based off its content. But this one's not going to have the text centered because we didn't add that attribute, but it still has all the other properties. So this allows us to use that same thing and like really like customize how we use each one.
Okay, and that's why it's the unexpected error.
I wonder what that, I don't. Oh, do you have a quote there still?
Not for data center.
Huh. I don't know where that unexpected error is coming from.
I'll retype it because I might have put the quote in and then, why is there still an unexpected error? I just put you back to normal. I don't know.
Oh, that might, maybe that was Grammarly's like complaining. I don't know.
Well, unexpected error is theirs, but if I double click on that, it tells me Grammarly. So I don't know. It's fine.
So
if it works,
anyway,
it's fine.
So that's one thing we can do. And if we want to have some other attributes, in this case, we want to maybe have like the children inside of it also to be centered. So we can do that. Let's go back down to on 63, and we'll, in fact, let's copy and paste. Let's just grab everything that we wrote before. So
for 60,
from 61 down to 62. Yeah, we have too many like curlies now.
Oh, how did I manage that? Oh, because I did. There we go.
Perfect. But instead of center text, change that to center children. There we go. And inside here, let's remove that text align center. And let's put display flex. Display colon flex, sorry.
Okay. Yay. And semicolon.
And then flex direction center on the new line. Sorry, flex direction column. Sorry, my brain is like thinking one step ahead of the directions I'm giving you.
Flex direction what?
Column. There we go. And then align items.
Align
dash items.
Dash items. Okay. Yes, flexbox.
Colon.
We're gonna find out.
Center.
My dog is making really weird noises. Okay.
Okay. So now we can go back up there to that up above. Or actually, let's do that to that article just so you can see what happens. Let's go equals.
And then do center children?
Yeah, center children. Let's just see what happens there. And then.
Oh, yay! It did it to it.
Yeah, so you can potentially like center the children if you wanted to, or you can do both. You can do center children space center text, and it will, because we did that tilde, it says it's going to take each of those words that we put in there and delimited by the space, and if it can find a word that says center children or center text, it will apply the styles. Your dog is really upset at you.
I'm going to go kick her out of this room. I will be right back.
Welcome. This is now my show. I'm going to say whatever I want because Jen kicked her out of the room. I'm just kidding. The fun of live TV, everybody.
The funs of
say some offensive stuff.
Whatever. Rude.
I should have said stuff like, by the way, Jen endorses everything I say. Boop.
I am learning a lot from everything you say, so I appreciate it. Okay, sorry for the rude interruption from my dog. All right, so we
So,
were doing center children, center text.
and in this case, because the text isn't wrapping, you can't see that the text is actually a line center.
Okay.
But so let's remove it off that article because that's not how we're going to do it in the long run. Just really want to just show you, like, let's remove all of that data center off.
Okay.
The let's go on, but just to make it clear what's happening here, let's go back up to that div, and let's add that center text. Sorry, the data center. Let's do center children on that.
And do I do it inside of the quotes?
Inside of the quotes, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Cool. Center dash children, right?
Yep. And then next to outside of the quotes, we're going to do a style. And we're going to define that max width. It's in quotes, yeah. And we'll go dash dash max width, colon, and let's do 500 pixels. Why not? And then let's maybe bump up the or bring down the font just so you can see exactly what that's going to do. Okay. Still haven't seen it. I really want to make that text wrap. Let's change 500 pixels. Let's go.
I made it too big that I can't see enough. There we go. 500 pixels to.
Let's go like 100 pixels. Let's just really exaggerate it.
And
do we?
Oh, there. That one's wrapping.
Yeah, that one's wrapping. Let's go back to the center. The data center in the CSS. Sorry. And let's make sure max inline size.
Just because I moved that up doesn't mean I wanted everything else to move. There we go.
Max width. Interesting. Let's give it like 10 pixels. Go back up to that max width where we were defining that. And let's give it 10 pixels. Let's just really exaggerate that. I would have right there. Yeah, it's not.
We have more that are doing it.
I am confused. What? We're doing dash dash max width.
I'm going to make it bigger just to see if it'll. I mean, it's doing it now.
Yeah. I just wouldn't. It should be like really small max width there. Go data center max inline size dash max width. Oh, on 59 we got to put var in front of that.
Over here.
Yeah.
there we go.
So let's change that back to 500 pixels. Up
okay.
on. I was like, that should have been like right.
Yay.
So yeah, so now we can see how that's working. We can use the center now in any way we want. We can mix and match and kind of really customize it for the situation. Because sometimes we don't want text line center, or sometimes we don't want the children centered. We still want them to be left aligned inside that box, but sometimes we want everything just like totally centered. So that's what it gives us, all those options, and we can use just this one data attribute to cover all those options now.
Very cool. Very cool. And I mean, there was a lot to learn here, but like at the same time, it's so intuitive. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just but I feel
I
like
don't,
so many
it's one of
people.
these things like it. We kind of like get really bogged down in the how we got there with like display flex and all that stuff, and we kind of forget. We get caught in. We don't see the forest for the trees, kind of thing, and
Mm,
we really what we're trying to achieve is this cover layout and then a center layout, and we're composing those together to make this vertically and horizontally centered content. Uh, anyway, so that's why I really like to think of a web layout in this way. Also, because I don't want to sit there and remember every single time all these properties. I need to have this combination of properties. You can
mhm.
define it once, and now you can bring these into any project and just go, "Hey, data, this is a centered, and I want this centered, and I want this as using a cover pattern." So
Okay. Now we can either have 10 minutes left or 40 minutes left, whatever you want to cover. Um, because I always schedule them for an hour and a half, but I think the attention span is like an hour.
yeah, I hear you.
um, Although sometimes we get a little stuck and need to, yeah, that extra half an hour. Is there anything else that you wanted to make sure we covered today to do Bedrock? That is what Anthony spin up Bedrock is what he
Spin
is
up
saying.
Bedrock. You want me to actually do it with Bedrock itself? Um, just to make things, just so you can see the value of using Bedrock and not having to recreate these. Let's go into the settings up above there and go to the CSS, and you can see the CSS that's being imported. Scroll down on the right side there, and you can see I brought in, keep scrolling. Yeah, so right now I'm using open prompts, and you can see I've got this Bedrock layout, this lit. So go down into there, and you'll see Bedrock Layout CSS 2.0.3, and just
Mhm.
remove everything after that.
After 2.0 point.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then close, and hopefully nothing breaks. Perfect. So let's go into, now we can just close the CSS because we don't need it anymore. We're just going to live in HTML land the rest of this time.
I don't even know how to close it.
Yeah,
Really
there we go.
bad.
So first thing we want to do in this main section, you'll see these like top jokes, and then a whole bunch of like cards, and then there's another set of jokes.
Mhm.
So what in on main, we want this to be a stack. So right next to
Real
the
quick. I had Anthony posted about what y'all did with JF's Jam, FS Jam. Wow, I can't even talk today. And then explain styled components. You've abstracted it out, but still it's probably relevant to mention.
yeah. So yeah, I was on Anthony's podcast, FS Jam, and I think I'm due to come back on, right, Anthony? I'm just kidding. That was just a joke.
And,
So
like two things that Anthony told me when I first met him were don't worry about Web3 yet. He's like,
yeah,
it's you're not there, don't worry, unless you really, really want to. And then also his podcast may be too technical at this point for me. And I was like, fair enough. So that's why I'm always like, oh yeah, he has a podcast because I'm not listening to it. So yes, go back
because I'm not
on,
listening
and
to it.
then I will listen to the first one and the second one and see if I finally start to understand these things.
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, the main version of Bedrock Layout is built in React using style components. Style components is a library that allows you to write CSS, and it generates the CSS on the fly at runtime. So you can basically like define like this is how I want the CSS to be built depending on the context, and then style components based off the context that's actually being used builds the CSS as you go. Um, there's some trade-offs to that, but like for most people's apps, it's perfectly fine because you get some nice, cool benefits with that as well. You get like, you don't have to download a separate CSS sheet and all that stuff. It just all comes in, then Style Commands builds it.
And you do have a question from Bakari of what is the best way to become a badass at CSS in JS?
Use it a lot. I don't know. Just do a lot. Build a lot of crap. That's what I found.
He did say that he was going to take your course for sure. And yay, Anthony said I finally graduated to being able to listen to it. Anthony, you weren't here earlier, but I was telling Travis, you're like the big brother that is like really
not Big Brother like 1984 Big Brother.
Like very like you're gonna do this and learn it in like a really caring way. Like I think that's the best way of saying it. So that way I like learned the best structure. I don't know. Maybe that made sense, but
no. No. So what we're doing here though is like an abstraction from that original library that was built in React and all that. It's just a CSS framework behind it. So that's what we're going to be doing here.
Okay.
So in main, let's have you go to main. Sorry, you were right there. Like,
oh, okay, yeah, right here.
Line 9. So after the word main, I want you to write the word data dash bedrock. Inside the
class, right?
Yeah, data dash bedrock dash stack. Yep. So by default, this is going to like stack everything inside that more violety lavendery section. But what we want to do is we want to put some gaps in there so we can see that content. Sorry.
Okay.
So let's do style.
In the same area.
Yeah. So go space style equals, and in quotes do dash dash gutter. Oh, gutter. Sorry.
Gutter. I heard scatter, and I'm like, I don't know if I know how to spell scatter either.
And then colon, and let's do like 2 rem. REM, like the band.
Okay.
That should, assuming that it brought in everything, work. Interesting. Oh, let's see here. Stack. Yeah, that's how you spell stack. Data bedrock stack. What is going on?
It could be just a missing letter somewhere. I will tell you that. Bakari and I had to learn that the hard way of instead of payments, I put payment somewhere.
Just bedrock stack. No, you got bedrock stack.
Throwing that one out there.
Gutter. GUTTER. Yeah. Well, now I'm curious. Did it actually bring in this?
Do I need to go back to settings?
Yeah, let's go into settings. Let's see if it actually brought it in.
Okay,
let's go
and
back
then
to the
CSS. Yep, and then all the way down.
You might need to copy everything you have there, remove it, and then paste it back in.
We'll paste it in the one underneath.
Yeah.
Scrap that one. Close. There's not a save anywhere, right? No, there's no save.
Okay. Or in fact, the @2.0.3, let's maybe get rid of that.
Yeah. All right. Close.
Why is that not working?
It still says unexpected error, and I don't know why.
Do you mind if we look at debug the code? Let's go to that. So if you right click on top jokes and in the HTML there.
Oh, and then inspect.
Inspect, yeah.
Okay, cool. Oh, I'm so excited. I love debugging because I'm learning so much.
Let's go to main. Yeah, just highlight the
Okay.
word main there. Yeah, click. And it is, yeah, the data bedrock stack. It's coming in there. Hover over on the right-hand side there. You'll see gutter. Go down there.
Click it.
Yeah. It's getting that 2 rem.
Is it trying to read some of the CSS we already wrote?
Oh, I just realized it is probably working. I'm looking at the wrong thing. I'm not thinking of the data. Okay, go ahead and close this. I now not realize. Okay, scroll down from like the top jokes, like scroll in between top jokes and food jokes. There's 2 rems between the word food jokes and that section of cards. Right
Right
Yeah,
here?
right there. That's the 2
Okay.
rem. I had in my mind something different. Like, okay, so we're gonna do the same thing again with this section.
Okay.
Let's do data bedrock stack again for
In section?
right about in that section.
Stack. And then same style?
Style. This is the fun of live streaming. You get to see even like experienced people forget. And let's do 1 rem here. And it's a double dash for the for the getter.
And then
there we go.
Now we have our spacing. Yay!
Yeah, and then let's do that to the other section as well. The same exact thing. So. So yeah, right above food jokes, we'll do data bedrock.
Yay! It's so pretty.
Awesome. So the next thing I want to do is just show you how to do like there's the grid of columns. So and we want to have like a responsive set of columns that will like take up as much room as they possibly can, but as it runs out of width, it will, reorganize themselves.
Oh, okay.
So to do that, so on the around each of the articles, so let's go back into the top jokes. Yeah. Let's wrap that in a div.
All of them or just this one
All
article?
of the articles. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to close this div just... Yeah. I was like, I have a feeling we're going back there, but I need to make sure to close my div.
Yeah. So write not there. One more down.
Before article or after article?
After article. Yeah.
Okay.
That said dev and not div.
Oh, you know what? I think I did the same thing up here. Oh, I did do div. Okay. So I have my div, not dev.
So we're going to use data bedrock grid.
Bye, Anthony. Enjoy lunch.
Have a good one. Thanks for jumping on.
Bedrock grid.
Yep. And we want to set the minimum item width on these.
Okay.
So let's do space. So let's do style.
Equals.
So actually, before that, let's set a getter. So sorry, in style, we'll still do style equals. And
I found this on the web.
Oops, stupid watch.
I don't remember how we wrote this one.
It's a dash getter.
Okay, dash getter. It's.
Yep.
Dash getter equals 1.
Yeah, let's do 1 rem. Okay. And then do a semicolon.
Before or after the quote?
After rem.
After rem.
No, before the quote, after the word rem.
Okay.
And then space, because we're going to define a second property here. And we're going to go dash min item width. Oh, sorry, item will be a capital. So
okay. Min item
width. And let's see. I'm trying to see what a good size would be. Let's do. Let's do. I don't know, 2 rem. Just for the fun of it, we can play around with this.
Oh, cool.
Now, just so you can see that is what it's doing. Now, let's change that to like 20 CH. Now, CH, that basically means 20 characters.
Oh, what does REM mean?
REM stands for root. The R stands for root, and I'm also like having you blank with the EMs. But the EMs basically means the font size. So that's typically means 16 pixels. But it could be different. So if you're in a header, the M's are going to be higher. So if you want things to be consistent, no matter where they are, even inside of header, you would use rems. So as you can see here, if you go back up to as it's taking up each one of these boxes has to be at least 20.
I changed it to 25 the way I like
25
it to
characters. That's fine. But if they can take up more space, they will. They're going to try to put as many of these cards in a row as they can without making them smaller than 25 rems. And if that's the case, then they'll move them to another line. And yeah, and you can see like as you move things around, it's going to adjust that and make them be as wide as possible in each of these cases.
I got excited. Now I want to do the other one.
So the other one, we're going to do something very similar.
Oh, okay. I won't get too excited.
So actually, let's just copy that. Let's just bring the whole like data grid over. So yeah, let's do.
And let me make sure I get my other div.
Yeah.
Before I forget. Okay.
So it's going to look cool. There's definitely a pattern for this, a style for this. But instead of doing grid, let's do something a little bit more fun. Change it to data bedrock column dash drop.
Dash rock?
Drop, D-R-O-P.
I just didn't remember far enough.
Let's see here. And then let's pull it out. Let's make it a little bit wide. No, not pull it out. Sorry. Let's make the screen a little bit wider. These should be like.
Oh yeah. That's cool.
So it kind of does the same things as the grid, but instead of like those columns like translating all the way down to all the rows, each time the content drops to a new row, the columns reset. And that's why I call it column drop. So.
Oh, this is fun.
So yeah, and maybe change this one to 20 CH just so you can set a minimum item with 25. Let's change that to 20 just to see. So you. Interesting. Yeah, it basically like once it gets to a certain point, it's just going to stack everything. And in fact, both of those.
There we go.
Yeah.
I just needed to make it a little smaller.
Perfect. There we go. Let's do the 20. If you want to do the 25, that.
It does it if I just move this, right? It shows the difference. I like that. Because it shows like right here how it just does, this one's the largest and needs to take up all the room.
Yeah.
This is perfect. Cool.
So we could have recreated all these ourselves and shown you, but this is what my library gives you, is that you can just use these layout patterns automatically by yourself. You don't have to think about recreating these. You can just go, oh, I want to have a grid pattern here. I want a column drop pattern here. And there's a whole bunch of other ones in there as well.
This is so cool.
So that's the idea of this, is just to help you like not have to like think about like layout. Like you just like think about like what you want to do. And then this library helps you achieve it. And then you can get back to like making it pretty and doing all the other things that are fun to do.
Okay, so last question before you go. How did you end up creating this and deciding to do this? Because it's really cool. And that's my curiosity question.
crazy thing. So I've been obviously like working on this for stuff in the industry for a bit. I was specifically though part of a design system team at a company called R1, and we were building our design system and component library. And I wanted to get permission to open source it, and I couldn't. And so this is a short story. Like basically, I'm like, well, I'm going to show you. I'm going to make an open source library anyway that does some of these, not everything that we were building in the design system, but just the parts that I was having the most fun at the time building, which were these layout patterns, these component patterns. And and so that's what I did. I built it out originally using just React and style components. And as I've gone, I've just continued to like just find new and more fun ways to like just keep building this. This is where the CSS library now has come from. So
I dig it. This is really cool. And thank you for coming on today, because this taught me a ton and actually made it not seem as scary to build a website. Good. At least on the front end. You know, eventually Anthony taught me about making a React app with Vite and Vercel. And then Ramon taught me about making an API with Express. And I'm like, between all of these, I'm just going to be able to make a whole web app. It's just
you're just going to
really
be
fun.
Like the master full stack app developer.
Eventually, I need to go watch all the old ones and be like,
you're going to have to change the title from Teach Jenn to Jenn Teaches You shit. Or
I know. No. I'm like, I have a podcast called Shit You Don't Want to Talk About. I'm like, whatever. Yes. And that's a big thing, I think, is something that's so cool about the tech community is it's like you learn, build, then teach, and you always pay it forward. And that's a big reason I wanted to learn these live, is because it gives somebody an idea of where it was, you know, to start with something. And then eventually I'll be building more instead of learning as much. But there's still so much out there to understand that I'm like, I don't even know what direction to go in yet.
Oh, and you're always learning. There's like things I was like just like learning about today, just before the stream, working on stuff at work, that like it was a situation I've never run in before. And it was like, you're like, oh, I can do this. This is something that exists. And maybe it didn't exist 2 or 3 years ago. And that's why I didn't know about it. So yeah, that's what I love about this industry, is that like you're never going to be caught up. So there's a little bit of anxiety for that, but there's also a lot of fun because you're always learning. And I love I like to look at it as I'm always learning part of it.
I dig that. And I think that is also something that I do appreciate, that Anthony is always telling me about documentation. And I'm also going to have R4DZ
this whole week.
So. I know R4DZ or M4DZ is going to be coming on and teaching about documentation too, which I think that's going to be so important as to when you have to learn something new, of being able to understand how someone goes through and does it. Because for myself, something I've always struggled at is somebody would be like, okay, go do this. Here's instructions. But it doesn't always make sense without being able to see someone do it, or like be able to ask questions like today. So I really appreciate you going through, and just Twitter makes things so accessible, and so does Discord. There's like so many Discords and Slack channels and communities that people, you can do tech. It is possible.
And there's some crazy like gatekeeping tech people, but I'd say most of them out there all went through a lot of crap to get where they are, and they know how hard it was, and they, like you said, they want to pay it forward. Even if they aren't full-time like mentoring, most people I know are totally willing to like answer questions, help people. Like tech Twitter is so much more approachable than most people even realize.
Agreed. And I will say something that may give people like that idea that they don't want to teach is the fact that it's not necessarily they don't want to, they don't understand how to explain it or have the practice of how to explain it to a newbie.
Teaching and it is skill in of itself. Exactly.
So thank you once again. And I don't know what you'll be coming on the show again, but I'm definitely going to be hitting you up after I understand
100%.
stuff more. So maybe a month to 6 months, I'll be like, yo, Travis, you've got to come back because there was a lot of knowledge drop today. And I appreciate that.
Well, exactly. And you'll probably get like 10%. Remember 10% of what you learned today. But that's
That is
fine.
why they're recorded.
Exactly. But 100,
Awesome.
hit me up anytime.
Awesome. Thank you, Travis. Bye, everyone.